whispers in the silence. The evening sun descended below the horizon, painting the room in hues of oranges and purples. I had the whole weekend to myself as my parents were away on their anniversary trip. Excitement bubbled up as I thought of the uninterrupted gaming and movie marathons that awaited me. A perfect weekend at home, alone. I started by watching a series of classic horror movies. Each creak of the house seemed amplified by the haunting score, and every soft whisper of the wind sent a shiver down my spine. I laughed it off. My mind was clearly playing tricks on me. It was just a movie. The first oddity came around midnight. The television flickered off for a few seconds and then resumed. Maybe just a power surge, I thought. But then an icy draft seemed to move through the room. Impossible. All the windows were closed. I shook it off, attributing it to the horror movies. I decided to head to the kitchen for a snack, leaving the soft glow of the television behind me. The floorboards groaned under my weight as I made my way down the dark hallway. That's when I heard it. A faint, hushed whisper. My heart began to pound. I stopped in my tracks, convinced it was just the movie audio echoing through the house. But the whispering continued. I strained to hear. Alone. That's all I could make out. Fear wrapped its cold hand around me, but I rationalized. It had to be my imagination. I entered the kitchen and the soft light from the fridge felt comforting. As I poured a glass of milk, I could still hear those chilling murmurs. Suddenly I noticed something outside the window. A silhouette, barely discernible in the moonlight, stood in my backyard, facing away from the house. Frozen, I dared not move. Every ounce of logic told me that it could be a neighbor or someone who had lost their way. But the whispering. The whispers that now seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. I took a deep breath and approached the sliding door to the backyard. Slowly, quietly, I slid it open. The chill of the night gripped me. I called out, "Hey, can I help you?" The figure didn't move. And then, in a voice that seemed to be carried by the wind, I heard, "You're not alone." Panic surged through me. I slammed the door shut and locked it, grabbing a kitchen knife. I needed to call the police. But my phone was in the living room. With the knife gripped tightly, I made my way back. The TV was now just white static, its hissing sound like taunting laughter. The whispers grew louder. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, but the line was dead. The silhouette was no longer in the backyard. In a growing panic, I ran to the front door to ensure it was locked. That's when I saw another figure, this time at the front, similarly standing facing away from the house. My home was no longer a sanctuary, it felt like a trap. I remembered the attic. It had a small window from which I could perhaps signal for help. Climbing up was harrowing. The whispers seemed to intensify, now sounding like a chorus of hushed voices, repeating the same thing. "You're not alone." Once in the attic, I scanned for the small window. To my horror, another silhouette stood outside it. But this time, it slowly turned, its features obscured by shadow save for two piercing glowing eyes. It seemed to be floating, suspended. Tears streamed down my face. I was trapped. Then, a new sound broke the eerie chorus of whispers. The ringing of the landline from downstairs. The ancient phone we never used. Gathering every ounce of courage, I descended, knife still in hand. I picked up the receiver, praying to hear a voice from the outside world. The other end was silent for a moment, and then a chillingly familiar voice said, "You're not alone." I dropped the receiver. The whispers, the figures, they weren't outside. They were in the house with me. Every shadow seemed to move. Every whisper caressed my ear. I was surrounded. Hours seemed like days, and the night appeared endless. But then, a new sound emerged, the distant chirping of morning birds. The haunting grip of the night began to weaken. As the first rays of dawn seeped into the house, everything fell silent. The figures, the whispers, all vanished. I didn't dare move until the house was filled with daylight. Exhausted, I stumbled to my room and collapsed on the bed. When my parents returned, I said nothing. How could I explain? They would never believe me. But I knew one thing for sure. I would never spend a night alone in that house again. Weeks turned into months, and life returned to normalcy. Until one day, while cleaning the attic, my mother found an old photograph. In it stood several figures, their features obscured by age and wear. On the back, a note read, "We're never alone." And in the quiet moments of the night, if I listen closely, I can still hear the faintest whispers, reminding me of that terrifying truth.